Hi, my name is Bridgette Hylton, and I'm here with my co-host Sanam Zaer, and we're part of
A
A Better Shrewsbury. It's Black History Month yet again, and we're really excited to be here to talk about some Black history activities that are happening in the Central Mass area. We're here today with Cedric Arnold and Rob Jones. Why don't you gentlemen introduce yourselves?
How you doing? Cedric Arno, Music Mania Television Studios, LLC. We're an incorporated company. We are a production company that specializes in bringing on in-person events to online audiences. So you get a chance to see from your living room tablet or from your phone what we have going on in some seminars, fashion shows, different things that you can be a part of. If you can't make it to the place, we'll stream it to you. So look for us to stream more activities, and we'll be streaming this particular activity on February 29th that we'll be talking about a little later on.
Thank you. And Rob Jones?
Yes, I'm Rob Jones. I'm the Chief Empowerment Officer of Teeley Associates. We're a diversity, equity, and inclusive excellence company that focuses on strategic leadership, DE&I issues, as well as nonviolence and peace reconciliation.
Awesome. And you gentlemen are here today to talk to us about a live presentation of one of Frederick Douglass's speeches that's coming up. Is that right?
Yes. What we're doing is we're on February 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. We will be at the Worcester County Courthouse at 225 Main Street in Worcester, Massachusetts. There we will be in the jury room where we will have put together a program. The program will be, the run of the show basically is we'll have the welcome from the mayor and the city manager, and then we will have a dedication from the United States Postal Service to the Worcester branch of the NAACP of the Black History Month stamp this year, which is Constance B. Motley. Constance B. Motley was the first black woman to appear before the United States Supreme Court and win a decision in front of them. So the symbolism of the courthouse and Constance B. Motley is that we are still in a fight. We're going to use the courthouse to win these fights, and that seems to be that's the thing that gets us over the finish line most of the time with black communities, is that we have to go to the courthouse to try to get our justice.
Okay, I have so many questions, but
Yeah,
before
yeah.
we dig into the meat and potatoes of today's episode,
Yeah.
we have a little tradition here where we like to start the episode with a random question.
Okay.
To kind of get to know you all a little bit better and share.
And just to
something.
lay it out there, we did pre-discuss the random question, so we all know what the random question is going to be today. So today's question on the topic of Frederick Douglass is: could you have done what he did? Could you have been a great and powerful person, I guess?
Or another leader in Black history, Frederick Douglass. If you were, could you be Harriet Tubman? Could you pick your favorite or pick someone that comes to mind? And do you think that you have the chutzpah? Do you have what it takes to do what they did?
Sure, I can start. And this is a perfect sort of connecting the dots or bridge to what we're going to be doing on the 29th, because after the reading of the speech by various community members, I'm going to facilitate a discussion, and the focus of that discussion is to get people to understand that not everyone can be a Harriet Tubman, a Frederick Douglass, a Whitney Young, a Martin Luther King. So I'm going to be highlighting several people in our history that you might not know of, but they have done very powerful things, just as powerful as Frederick Douglass, but they didn't have the position, the power, or the notoriety, but they still got the results. And so when you ask the question of, could I do what Frederick Douglass, I think I'm doing it right now, and that is, educating the community, helping people empower themselves, and getting people to understand that you don't need position, power, or title to create great change.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the same way. I think I am doing it now. I think I am, there's some things that I do. I call myself the hustler of culture, where I sell black books. I vend. I go to places like a pop-up shop. Now, currently, I have a brick and mortar spot that I just signed a lease for last month. So we're looking to do a lot of amazing things out of there. We're going to have the Arno Research and Cultural Center. So that's going to be where we'll have books and book discussions and discussions around topics, and then we'll be able to stream those topics to audiences that may not physically be there. Then we're going to have the stand-up comedy workshop, which is another piece that we do targeting 16 to 24-year-olds, where we got a 3-year grant from Mass Cultural to do that, where we're going to, we're going to use that as like a drop-in center for some of the young people who don't go to the Y, don't go to the Boys and Girls Club, but they'll have opportunity to use stand-up comedy to learn how to express themselves, public speaking, self-esteem, community growth. And then we're going to have the Music Mania Television Studios, which will be where we'll have the green screen like you got here in the studios, and it'll be a studio for the community. Come in, we'll practice what you got to do. Some of them going to be artists, some of them be discussion leaders, some of them will just be regular people who want to showcase their public speaking, their spoken word, their rhyme, whatever they have. We'll have the opportunity for them to do it within the community. They don't have to travel far, and we're going to be open. The hours will, be open, will be conducive to the community. So we'll be open a little later. You know, they can come in a little later. They may not have to drive as far and pay for parking. We have parking there. So that's one of the things that we're doing in the Frederick Douglass reading, standing in front of authority, because that's what the reading is. It was an opportunity for Frederick Douglass to stand before those who were in power and speak his truth to those who were his, basically, overseers, but he was a free man. But still, as a free man, he still had to conduct himself in certain ways. Even in his path to where he got to be who he was, he had abolitionists who he fought with and fought against. He had people, you know, from the Susan B. Anthony's, I believe Stanhope was another female that was a part of the abolitionist movement, but they also was a part of the movement to have women's voting rights before black people. So that was a fight in itself. But what the point of the question was that could I do that? And I do that. I stand in front of City Hall when we do this speech. I do my speech, and that is truth to power. Whether it is taken as, you know, a Martin Luther King, maybe not. You know, Frederick Douglass, maybe not. But Cedric Arno on the steps of, you know, City Hall, that was somebody who said what he said, and he said it in front of everybody, and if you had ears to hear, you heard. And now if you want to do something about it, that's the next step. And that's where we come. We're action. We're verbs. You know what I mean? We're action words, and that's why we're here today, to empower people to come out, be a part of the reading. It's going to be February 29th at the Worcester County Courthouse, 225 Main Street, from 1 to 4 p.m. We'll have the reading, the presentation of the Black History Month stamp. Sharon Henderson will be performing, so please come out to hear her sing. We will be having Woo Juice, big up to the Woo Juice guys. They'll be providing beverages for people, so get there early. You know, we have a budget. We can't feed everybody. So we're going to provide drinks. Then if you don't get the Woo Juice, we'll have some water. You get some water. But definitely come out, 225 Main Street, February 29th. It's the reading of Frederick Douglass's speech. Funding provided by Mass Humanities. Funding provided by Mass Humanities for this Frederick Douglass reading, and we hope to see you all there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's my turn?
Yeah, what about you?
Okay, so I think I thought about this just now, but I think about this quite often. I watch the HBO movie about Harriet Tubman, and I watch all these other great epic figures in our history, and I look at what they did to stand up, and I ask myself this, like, could I do that? And I think if you had asked me when I was 18, I'd be like, yes, I would be out there. I would save all the people. I would build the tunnels. I would do this. I would do that. You know, but as I get older, I don't know if it's that I've gotten more cynical, but I think I begin to see that it's not a one-person affair. It's kind of what Rob talked about. It's a patchwork quilt of many of us, and each person is a thread, and each person is a patch, and we all come together. So I think I'm contented knowing that I am a thread in the tapestry. I'm a thread in the quilt. I am a patch in the quilt. You know, not everyone's going to be the purple that stands out in the quilt. Not everyone's going to be the center square, you know, but I think as I've gotten older, I think I get more and more delight in knowing that I'm a part of that bigger quilt. And so, I mean, I think that in that regard, you know, if the quilt is covering the Black community, covering our people, then I hope that I'm a part of the quilt, even if I'm not the star.
Amen.
I think that's something that I've actually kind of gone back and forth on within our friendship as well, because there have been moments in our friendship where, we'll see someone run for office and I'll call Bridgette and I'm like, you should run for office. And she'll she'll consider it for a couple of minutes and she's like, no, not now. We've kind of gone back and forth on these things, or, some situation will arise where I need to potentially rise into a leadership position. And then we go back and forth. And at the end of the day, we both kind of come back to the idea of owning a small shop, a community center, being a thread in the tapestry of the community. And I think that's where I'm at as well. I work in a school right now, and it's interesting because I'm doing my principal licensure program right now. But as I'm in this program, which is a leadership program, I kind of go back and forth because, you could work directly with the kids, or you can work in a position of leadership where you're kind of, shaping the direction that the school is going in. And, I keep going back and forth about where I want to be, but it always kind of comes back down to this idea of creating community and just being part of a bigger vision and not being someone. I kind of go back and I'm like, do we even need that anymore? Maybe it's time for everybody to kind of rise and
Well, for me,
figure it out.
what it speaks to is something called servant leadership. A lot of times we talk about leadership. I think in the United States context, across industries, it really has to do with position and title, where servant leadership is about leading from within, not in front. It's about encouraging people. It's about helping people to grow, helping people grow into their best selves. And so you don't need to do that being in front of the group. You can be right in the group. And I love the idea of being a tapestry. I forget, I want to attribute it to the person, but the name doesn't come to me. But it's almost like, you look at a rope. A rope is strong, but once you break that rope down, it could be 50,000 threads. And so that's sort of kind of how the way I see that anybody can definitely be a part of and can be a Frederick Douglass. You might not get the notoriety, but if you're encouraging someone to be their best self, if you're fighting injustice, if you speak up about something.
Raising a child. I mean, there's just so many ways, that we could do this. I'm hearkening back to the essay that I had written a couple of years ago called In Defense of Quiet Allies. And one of the things that essay talks about is that when you want to serve a cause, you can't serve yourself. So you can't make it about me. You have to kind of give some deference to the cause, give some deference to the stakeholders in order for things to progress in a positive way. So what you just said kind of reminded me of that. But let's talk a little bit more about the event on the 29th. Let's talk a little bit about which speech is going to be presented and about the content and things like that.
Okay, what we're doing Frederick Douglass's speech, "What to the Slave," is the 4th of July. The context of the speech is that it was done in Rochester, New York, and that it was done before an audience of people who were coming there to celebrate the 4th of July. And Frederick Douglass' speech talks about the mockery of how you can call me here to tell about the celebration of your 4th of July, but less than 100 miles down the road, my people are in bondage, my people are in slavery. And how dare you come to me to bring this forth as a celebration? And I am in such a state of basically of a burden to the government, to the United States, that they call me inhuman, that I am subhuman. But yet there are over 100 laws in Virginia that would put me to death as a man. So how can you make laws that would put me to death as a man but consider me a brute? So he talked about the mockery of all of the United States and the various institutions of the United States, whether it was religion, government, and the courts and the legislature, how he broke them all down to how dare you put all of these things and say that this is your United States, this Constitution is for all men are created equal. But you see me as a brute. You see my people as brutes. You see that the servitude that you get from me, you empower your engine of economy. You have all of these ships at sea that are whalers and the various things that this commerce brings you, but you have this slave who is giving you nothing but free labor. And that is a destitute for years to come, and it still is area of contention now that you should repay me for my labor.
So I think what he's really getting to is the he's sort of invoking or provoking cognitive dissonance in the listener, right?
Exactly. Ooh, yes,
And I think
exactly.
that it's something that sort of applies to so many things going on in the world, not just to his experience, right? I know there were people who were having a hard time celebrating the holidays because of what was going on in Ukraine, and
Right.
people that are having a hard time celebrating New Year's because of what's going on in Gaza.
Yeah.
And so it is a human condition that he's really poking at to provoke action, provoke mindfulness, provoke thought
As a
in the
human.
listener. And so it's just as powerful today as it was then.
You're right.
Because we still live in a world where we have to wear many hats and to have two things be true at the same time. And how can that be?
Right.
So I think it's something that it's definitely worth listening to live.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it out live, reading, because it's a
Right.
powerful piece of writing.
And really the fact that he's holding up a mirror. And what's really interesting about our Constitution, which is a wonderful document, Declaration of Independence, we constantly use the word citizen, citizen. But even when they wrote it, the citizen was land-holding white males. Didn't even include women. And so when we talk about citizens, they should all, I always think we should sort of rewrite it and put in parentheses exactly who are we saying are citizens, because it wasn't the enslaved folks who were, 3/5 of a human who would chattel, even at the time that he gave this speech. And he's saying to them, as Cedric mentioned, so we're 3/5 of a person, but when it comes to the law, we're citizens. That the law applies to us as full human beings. Doesn't make sense. And so he holds that mirror up, and I really wonder if folks got that.
At the time, or
even today.
now. Well, there's a great companion piece to this. James Baldwin, Letter to My Nephew on the anniversary
Yes.
of independence, and it's written many, many years later, but it's still wrestling with that same dissonance. It's still wrestling with that same idea that how can we celebrate? How can we, we're a part of this, but we're not. So, I know there's great writers out there now who are writing now the 2023 version of that,
Well, right
that are
now,
yet to come.
Right now we have where, I guess it was last week,
2024.
former President Trump talked about reversing, the 14th Amendment that said, and people don't even realize this part of, it's Black history, but it's really U.S. history, where that was where we established the law that if you are born in the United States, you're a citizen. And former President Trump talked about, I'll get rid of that. And it's like, what? You're going to get rid of something that sort of sets the United States apart from
Anywhere.
the
The rest
other
of the world,
190
yeah.
something countries in the world. And I was curious because I was like, nobody's talking about it. But that's just like the Muslim ban, those kinds of things. I'm like,
You don't take
are
them
we just
serious.
dead to it now?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't take people who are saying the wildest and craziest things serious, and you don't think those wild and crazy things will happen. And next thing you know, those wild and crazy things are what is going on, and now you are conforming to something that's wild and crazy.
Right.
Well, that's like, is it Elie Wiesel? No. Is that, he didn't write the poem. He wrote Night. What's that poem that's like, first they came for this one, then they came for that
Pastor
one? Yeah.
Nimola.
Yeah.
Pastor Nimola.
Yeah,
Protestant pastor, yeah.
yeah, and that's the kind of thing where you can be blind to it, and I think that again, circling back to Frederick Douglass, that's what he's getting at.
Yes.
Is that
then
you
to
cannot
put it
be
to your
blind
face
to it.
and be like,
Cannot be blind
and
to it.
two, get the point across as directly as I can with the medium that I can. Only thing I have is my oratory voice, and that I need you to take this and take this where it can go. And a lot of times that's the only thing we have. We got the rhyme cats that only thing they have is their voice. Sometimes the singers have their voice. We have people that go before a podium and say some things, and you listen to them, and you'll, whether it's a pastor or a preacher or just a regular cat that just came out of the pew and just went to the top of the podium and said, I need to tell you something. We need more of that.
But it's like I wonder nowadays, like how much harder it is for that voice, to rise out of the noise, right? Because now everybody has a platform, everyone has a podium.
Yeah.
You know, back when Frederick Douglass was giving his speech, there was no TV, there was no
Right.
Netflix, there was no endless streaming, there was no TikTok, right?
No TikTok,
so
no Instagram.
so quality things like his words were distributed more widely, more quickly, and the population of the planet was significantly less. We're at 8 billion now. It was significantly less then than it is now.
Right.
So I wonder now how much harder it is for voices of truth, voices of power, voices of these types of messages to kind of rise above the fray and be heard.
And you didn't even mention the algorithms, right?
Yeah,
so that,
the algorithms,
So that
yep.
if you're not even if you're not even showing an interest in that type
Yeah, you're not going to
you're not gonna see it
information,
at all.
you'll never
That's
see
right.
it. And it will
right.
just sort of pass you by totally. And at the same time, even during Frederick Douglass' time, we had low literacy rates. So though we had newspapers, it was still the oratory,
Yeah.
listening to that griot, listening to that elder or someone, if you chose to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
If you chose to listen.
There was not a lot else to do, so I think more people would have listened, right?
And I think that's why the way he used that platform on the July 4th day, where all of the people came around. These are the Rochester, New York people coming around. This is the celebration. It's the 4th of July. So the guy that was a farmer in the morning and came for this, whoever was at the store shop, they closed up, they came for this. And then to tell these same people truth to power, all of this thing, you coming here to celebrate. Don't include me. And then you bring me here to include me, and you look at me and you,
What did you expect?
what did you thought I was going to say to you? and that was such a risk for his life.
Yeah.
Like
certainly.
during that time, I mean, he was always risking his life, but to say that then and then to leave in front of all of those people and walk toward his carriage or
And
whatever,
then take
his
the chance
need
that
was.
maybe not ever getting another invitation.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
But he did get many after
Yes,
that.
he Do you know he spoke in Worcester once?
I was
don't know
gonna
if a
say,
lot of people
Mechanics
know
Hall.
that. Yeah,
Yes, she
yeah,
did.
he
Yes,
did
she
speak
did.
in Worcester once, so we have one little,
a
claim.
little something.
Little sliver. Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting. This is a speech that's given every year all over the country. But I think one thing that's like lost on so many people is its relevance to today. So I guess a follow-up question for you guys is, what other events are coming in the month in addition to the reading,
Well,
maybe ones that are facilitating, conversations of the relevance today, or any other events that are related to this one?
February 24th, there's an event at the YWCA Salem Street in Worcester. That one is being put on by the Worcester branch of the NAACP. They're putting together opportunities for people to learn about some of the people in their community, some of the people who they may not know. Share, hopefully, yeah. We're going to use Lenny Cooper, who was one of the branch presidents of the NAACP and also a fighter, activist in the community, led fights from the 70s to the 80s. Betty Price will be one of the other people we're using. Ashada Shakur, so people learn about her. And I believe we're using Claude Brown from Man-Child in the Promised Land. He's an author, and he was the life of the bad kid that went and became an attorney. So that showed the progression of some people who you may not know, but these are people who you should know about.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that we're looking to have during that time on the 24th. So that's the 24th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the YWCA, Salem Street, and Worcester. I know that one for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
There
in
is, and there's a
Worcester. Yeah.
Black History Month calendar actually that I think the Village puts out.
Village puts out.
Yeah, so maybe we could include a
There's
link
something
to
almost
it.
every
in this.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can include a link
Yeah.
so that.
And one thing that I know that we're going to do going forward is to not regulate this learning to the month.
1 month.
Yeah.
And to and I'm an advocate for. I can remember 15 years ago, if you sort of like Googled, diversity months, then you had this month was this month was that. You do that now, every month has 58 things
Yeah.
that they're doing. And when it comes to, talking about, across the identity spectrum, I'm really pushing people to say, you don't have to wait to talk about people with disabilities, you know, for like April or
That's
May.
right.
Yeah.
Like you can do it already. I'm working with some folks to develop sort of monthly programming around, you know, Black history, so that it happens every month. There'll be an opportunity to learn, and I'm encouraging others that we should do that across the identity spectrum and just,
Yeah.
I think that's
you know,
right.
have like this constant sort of learning, so that it's not just a month. It becomes just a regular part of like, hey, oh, this program's going on. Let's learn about, you know, this. Let's learn about that.
Well, I think also, you know, adding Juneteenth to the calendar really helped that in some regards, because now there's this other day that's not in February that's sort of pulling that out of people. And so I think the more of that we can have, the more constant conversation and learning, I think the better off everyone will be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it breaks down the other, like whoever
Yeah.
that other is, and once you get to know it. And I really think about how many of us, whatever your identity is or what you identify as, don't even know that history.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't know. And, you know, we have a, you know, large, especially in this area in Central Mass and Shrewsbury, Westboro, you know, Grafton, Leominster, all of that. We have a lot of first, second, and third generation. And when I talk to folks and I say, oh, where are you from? They're like, oh, I'm here, but my parents immigrated here. I was like, well, tell me a little bit about where your parents are from. And they're like, and I was like, oh, yeah, we need to know.
We need to work on that.
We all need, not only you, but we all need to know about where we all come from. Because I think once we understand our common history, we'll find out that there might be a common enemy.
Or a common cause, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a great way to wrap up the show. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time today and for sharing with us all the exciting event coming up on the 29th and the 24th, and other opportunities to learn about Black history, celebrate Black history. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you again.